The first sign something was wrong wasn't fear. It was attention. Not normal attention. Not curiosity. Something sharper. Like an entire fleet had just noticed him and didn't know what to do about it. Ethan kept walking. He didn't slow down, even though every instinct told him to stop. The corridor stretched ahead in perfect symmetry, glowing lines guiding his steps like the ship had already decided where he belonged. The air felt engineered. No smell, no warmth, no imperfection. It made him feel like a mistake inside something flawless. His boots echoed too loudly, too human, and they were everywhere. Tall figures moving in silent coordination, their bodies aligned like they were following the same invisible command. At first glance, they looked human. Then the illusion broke. Their ears were longer, curved slightly back. Their skin carried a faint glow. Their eyes, too precise, too aware, too focused. On him, not openly. That would have been easier. No, this was subtle. Reflections in polished metal. Side glances that vanished the moment he noticed. Movements that paused just a fraction too long. Like they were studying him without permission to study him. Ethan exhaled quietly. "Don't stare," he muttered. He failed instantly. A figure stepped directly into his path. She was taller. Not by much, but enough to make it clear she was in control of this space. Her uniform shimmered with faint shifting light. Her posture was exact, like every movement had been calculated before it happened. Her eyes locked onto his. "Identify." Her voice was smooth, controlled, stripped of emotion. Ethan blinked once. "Human," he said. "Still, last time I checked." There was a pause. Not long, but real. Like something had encountered an unexpected result. "I am Commander Lyra," she said. "You will follow protocol during your presence." "Great," Ethan replied. "Love protocol. Big fan." Another pause. Her head tilted slightly. "I am uncertain if that was humor." "It was," he said. "You'll get used to it. I will prepare for that." Ethan almost laughed. She wasn't joking. She turned. He followed. That's when the first crack appeared. One of the nearby officers hesitated. Barely noticeable. Another looked directly at Ethan, then quickly turned away. One walked into a console. Stopped. Stared at it like it had betrayed her existence. Ethan leaned slightly toward Lyra. "Is that normal?" "No." "Good," he muttered. "Because I feel like I'm already breaking things." She didn't answer. That silence said enough. They passed a wide viewing corridor. Space opened beyond transparent panels, endless black scattered with distant stars. And ships. Hundreds of them. Perfect formation. No drift. No error. Ethan slowed. "That's not just organized," he said quietly. "That's unnatural." "Our fleet operates with complete synchronization," Lyra replied. "Yeah," he said. "That's exactly what worries me." She stopped walking. He nearly collided with her. "Explain." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck. "Where I'm from, perfect systems don't stay perfect. They break. Hard." "Why?" "Because humans exist," he said simply. "We're very good at messing things up." Another pause. "I will record that." "Please don't." The command chamber was massive. Dozens of officers stood at their stations, every movement precise, controlled, predictable, until Ethan stepped inside. Something shifted. A hand froze above a panel. A gaze lingered. Someone turned, then quickly corrected themselves, like they had almost made a mistake. "Maintain focus," Lyra said. Instant response. But not perfect. Too slow. Ethan leaned closer. "So," he whispered, "is it just me, or am I the most interesting thing here?" Lyra scanned the room, then looked at him. "Yes." Ethan smiled, but it faded quickly, because now he understood. This wasn't harmless attention. This was disruption, and he was the center of it. By the second day, it got worse. Or better. He still couldn't decide. Doors opened before he reached them. Lights adjusted around him. Panels activated as he passed. The ship wasn't ignoring him. It was reacting. "You are being observed," Lyra said. Ethan glanced at a glowing panel. "Yeah, I figured." We will proceed to analysis. Of course we will. The chamber was circular. Floating displays filled the air, shifting constantly. At the center, a platform. Waiting. Ethan stopped at the edge. This safe? He asked. Yes. That doesn't help. He stepped on anyway. The reaction was immediate. Lights shifted. Systems pulsed. The entire room focused on him. A ring of light formed and began scanning upward. Ethan held still. Very still. I'm not moving, he said. That is preferred. The scan continued. Then something changed. Displays flickered. Symbols accelerated. One froze. Another recalculated. Ethan frowned. Is that supposed to? No. Lyra's voice had changed. Subtle, but real. The scan intensified. Faster now, like it was trying to catch something. Then, everything paused. Not shut down. Paused. Like the system had just hesitated. A single line appeared on one display. Alien text. Unreadable. But the reaction around him, that was clear. Ethan turned slowly. Lyra, what does it say? Silence. Too long. Lyra. She finally looked at him, and for the first time, her composure slipped. It indicates, she said slowly, that your biological structure is interacting with dormant sequences within our systems. Ethan blinked. Simplify that. Another pause. Longer. More careful. Then she said it. It may not be accidental. Ethan stared at her, then at the frozen systems, then back again. Well, he exhaled. That's not great. Behind them, a sound broke the silence. A technician. A short, uncontrolled laugh. Too fast to stop. Both of them turned. The technician froze, pretending nothing happened. But it had. Ethan felt it. Something had changed. Not just in the system. In them. They weren't just observing anymore. They were reacting. Feeling. And somehow, he was the reason. The silence after the scan didn't feel empty. It felt unstable. Like something inside the ship had shifted and didn't know how to correct itself. Ethan stepped off the platform slowly. No alarms. No lockdown. That almost made it worse. Okay, he muttered, brushing his sleeve. Didn't explode. That's good. No one answered. That was new. Before, there was always a response. Controlled, delayed, precise. Now? Nothing. Not empty. Processing. Lyra moved first. Follow me. Her voice was steady, but not effortless anymore. Ethan noticed. You really like saying that, he said, walking beside her. It is efficient. I'll try to be less disappointing then. That would be acceptable. He smirked. That almost sounded like personality. The corridor outside looked the same. Perfect. Symmetrical. But now, small flaws. A light flickered before stabilizing. A door opened just a fraction too late. Two officers nearly walked into each other. Both paused awkwardly. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Your perfect system's having a moment. They are adapting, Lyra said. To me? No answer. He sighed. Yeah, definitely me. They entered a smaller chamber. Less dramatic. More focused. Data moved across the walls in layered patterns. At the center, a console. Additional analysis, Lyra said. Of course, Ethan replied, because the first one went so well. He leaned casually against the console. You know, where I'm from, when something breaks, we turn it off and on again. That would not resolve this. Worth a try. Lyra didn't respond immediately. Instead, she watched him. Not scanning. Just watching. You are not reacting with appropriate concern, she said. Ethan shrugged. I am concerned. I'm just not panicking. That is unusual. Thank you. I worked hard on that. The display activated. His biological structure appeared. Layered. Complicated. Unstable. Ethan squinted. That's me, right? Looking confusing as usual. Yes. Consistent branding. Lyra pointed to highlighted regions. These sequences are triggering responses. In the ship? She hesitated. In our biology. Ethan straightened. Okay, that's new. Our species removed reliance on male genetic input generations ago, she said. Clearly, Ethan muttered. For this reaction to occur, she continued, means something was not removed, only suppressed. Ethan exhaled slowly. So, I'm not breaking anything.
No.
I'm waking it up. Yes. He rubbed his neck. That's not comforting. The display zoomed deeper. Older patterns emerged. Dormant structures.
But now,
They pulsed faintly, like something trying to wake up. These sequences should not be active, Lyra said. But they are, Ethan replied. Yes. And they're reacting to me. Yes. He nodded slowly. Okay, that's officially a problem. Lyra turned toward him. There is a possibility. Ethan waited. That your presence is not only triggering these responses. She paused. But completing them. Ethan blinked. Completing? Yes. As in finishing something your species started? Yes. He let out a small laugh. You know, I used to fix broken machines. This feels slightly bigger. That is correct. A faint pulse moved through the ship. Subtle, but real. Ethan glanced around. You felt that? Yes. Because of me? No answer. Again.
he sighed.
I'm starting to hate that silence. They returned toward the main deck. But everything had changed. Before, the crew moved like copies. Now, they didn't. Small differences. Tiny variations. But obvious. As Ethan stepped inside, attention shifted toward him. Not hidden anymore.
Direct.
Focused. One officer looked at him too long. Their eyes met. She froze. Then turned away quickly. And pressed the same control twice. Ethan leaned toward Lyra. She just pressed that twice. I am aware. That's not normal, right?
No.
Okay, good. An officer approached. Her posture was precise. But her expression wasn't perfect.
Commander, she said.
Report, Lyra replied. The officer hesitated. Just a fraction. But it was there. Minor coordination delays, she said. Reaction timing inconsistent. Lyra stiffened. Cause? The officer glanced at Ethan. There is a correlation. Ethan raised a hand. That means me. No one argued. He nodded.
Yeah.
Thought so. Lyra stepped closer. Closer than before. You are influencing cognitive processes, she said. I prefer to call it improving morale. This is not morale. Give it time.
She didn't argue.
That was new. Then, a sound broke through the tension. A laugh.
Short.
Sharp.
Real.
Everyone froze. A technician stood across the room, hand hovering over her console. Her expression caught between confusion and something else. Ethan smiled. In her defense, he said, I am very funny. No one responded, but her lips twitched again. Lyra saw it. This response did not exist before, she said. Yeah, Ethan replied. That's kind of my thing. Lyra stepped even closer. Not analyzing. Not scanning. Just there. You are introducing variables we do not understand, she said. Ethan met her gaze. Yeah, he said quietly. I figured that out. Around them, the fleet continued to operate.
But not the same way.
Less perfect. More flexible. More alive. These changes are not reducing efficiency, Lyra said. Ethan tilted his head. So, I'm not breaking your system.
No.
Just changing it. Yes. He nodded slowly. That sounds less bad. It is unknown. He smiled faintly. Everything important is. A sudden alert cut through the room. Sharp. Immediate. Every display shifted. Energy spiked. Lyra turned instantly. Report. Unknown fleet approaching, an officer said. Intercept trajectory confirmed. Ethan exhaled. Of course. Lyra's posture sharpened. Prepare defensive formation. The crew responded, but not perfectly. A delay. Small, but real. Ethan stepped closer. That hesitation, he said. Yes. And it's because of me. Yes. He nodded once. Perfect timing. Lyra looked at him, then said quietly, or necessary timing. Ethan frowned. That sounds optimistic. It is uncertain. He gave a small laugh. Everything is. Outside, the fleet began to move. Perfect synchronization. Braking. Just slightly. And somehow, it didn't look weaker. It looked different. Unpredictable. Ethan stared at the shifting formation, then back at Lyra. If I cause this, he gestured outward. What happens next? Lyra didn't answer immediately. Her eyes stayed on the approaching threat. Then she said, "We find out." The first shot didn't come from the alien fleet. It came from certainty breaking. A single flash tore through space, bending the darkness like reality itself had been misaligned. One ship in Ethan's fleet shuddered. No explosion. Just distortion, like physics had been slapped and forgot its shape for a moment. Ethan leaned forward. "Okay," he muttered. "I officially don't like them." Lyra didn't respond. Her eyes stayed locked on the battlefield. Maintain formation. A pause. A delay. Small but no longer acceptable. The fleet moved. But it didn't move like before. Not perfect. Not identical. Individual. One ship dodged late, but survived. Another fired early and still hit. A third held position and adapted shield timing mid-impact. Ethan frowned. "They're improvising." Lyra answered quietly. "Yes." "That's not supposed to happen." "No."
"Good," he said.
"Because it works." The enemy adjusted. Their formation tightened. Their logic became sharper, more predictable. And that was the problem. Ethan pointed at the display. "They're optimizing." Lyra glanced at him. "Explain." "Optimized systems assume patterns," he said. "Break the pattern, you break the system." Another wave of enemy fire crossed space. One of their ships hesitated. A fraction. That fraction was enough. It vanished under impact. Ethan exhaled. That hesitation cost them everything. Lyra's gaze sharpened. They cannot adapt. Exactly. The enemy pushed harder. A full convergence. All ships moving like one weapon, trying to restore control through force. Ethan stepped closer. "They're forcing synchronization again." Lyra didn't hesitate. "All units, break formation." The order spread, and for a moment, it looked like chaos. Ships scattered. Movements broke symmetry. The perfect fleet dissolved into independent motion. Ethan held his breath. This is where it fails. But it didn't fail. It worked. Enemy targeting collapsed. Predictive systems failed mid-calculation. Weapons overshot, undershot, misaligned. Not because the fleet was faster, but because it was no longer predictable. Ethan let out a low breath. "Yeah," he said. "That's new." A shockwave hit the flagship. The deck trembled. Lights flickered, but stabilized. Lyra barely moved. "Report." "Minor damage," an officer said. "System stable." Ethan nodded. "Controlled chaos." "Love it." Lyra looked at him. "This is not chaos." "It kind of is." "It is structured adaptive response." "That's just chaos with better branding." She didn't argue. That silence meant agreement. The enemy fleet began collapsing. Not destroyed. Disrupted. Their systems couldn't predict movement anymore. Their coordination failed under uncertainty. Ships broke formation. Some retreated. Some stalled. Some froze. Ethan watched quietly. "They're too rigid." "Yes," Lyra said. "They cannot deviate. That's their weakness." The final wave came fast. A desperate push. All remaining ships converging in one last attempt to overwhelm. Lyra turned instantly. "All units. Independent engagement protocol." The response came, not as one mind, but many. Each ship acted differently. Different timing. Different logic. Different survival instinct. And it worked. Enemy formation shattered. Not dramatically. Systematically. Prediction failed completely. Targeting collapsed into randomness. Then retreat. Silence followed. Not empty. Just heavy. Ethan stared at the drifting battlefield. "Well," he said slowly, "that went better than expected." No one responded immediately. Not because they didn't understand. Because they were still processing how it worked. Lyra remained still. Her eyes fixed on empty space. This outcome was not predicted. Ethan shrugged.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing. She turned to him. For the first time. No hesitation. You change how we fight. He gave a faint smile. Hopefully for the better. Lyra paused. Then,
No.
Ethan blinked. She continued. For the first time, we are choosing how we fight. That landed heavier than any explosion. Ethan looked around. The fleet wasn't perfect anymore. It was alive. Movements varied. Responses shifted. One officer actually adjusted her stance casually, like she had thought about it. Another looked toward Ethan, then nodded. Ethan blinked. Okay, he muttered. That's new. Lyra approached. Her steps were still precise, but no longer identical to the rest. Something had changed in her rhythm. You are preparing to leave, she said. Ethan didn't deny it.
Yeah.
A pause. You believe your departure will restore previous conditions. I think it might calm things down. Lyra shook her head.
No.
He frowned. No. This is not temporary disruption. Ethan went still. Lyra continued. What has changed will not revert. A long silence. So, I broke your system permanently? You did not break it. Changed it permanently then? Yes. Ethan exhaled. That still feels like I owe someone an apology. Lyra didn't respond immediately. Then, you introduced variables we could not generate. He looked at her. But they were always there? Yes. Just suppressed. Yes. He nodded slowly. So you weren't finished evolving. Lyra held his gaze.
No.
Then softer. But now we are continuing. Something settled between them. Not tension. Not command. Something quieter. Understanding. Ethan looked toward the fleet. It didn't feel alien anymore. It felt unstable. In the best possible way.
Alive.
One officer waved at him. Actually waved. Ethan froze. Okay, he said. That's definitely new. Lyra glanced at him. You may return. He raised an eyebrow. That an order?
No.
Good. A pause. It is an option. Ethan nodded. I'll think about it. Then, you also changed. He looked at her. Me? Yes. I still make bad jokes. That remains. Good. But now you choose. Ethan considered that. Then nodded.
Yeah.
I guess I do. He turned toward the exit.
Stopped.
Looked back. The fleet behind him, no longer perfect. No longer identical. Something else. Lyra standing in the center of it. Not just observing anymore. Existing. He raised a hand. Try not to evolve too fast without me. She tilted her head. I cannot guarantee that. Ethan smiled.
Yeah.
I figured. He walked away. The corridor adjusted around him. Not perfectly, but enough. Behind him, the fleet continued shifting. Not into order, not into chaos, into something new. And somewhere in that vast, changing silence, someone laughed. And this time, it wasn't delayed.